Emotional intelligence, or EI, is a buzzword that is front and center in corporate boardrooms, but it also has benefits for everyday living, including children. How good is your EI, and what is it, and why should you care? It's all here at the next Latino Motion. Join us.
Choose quality, value, distinction. Choose Stockton.
Latino Motion with Bert Lopez is presented by Latino Motion Public Affairs Media, a New Jersey nonprofit corporation, and Stockton University. This edition of Latino Motion with Bert Lopez is brought to you by the HD Studios at the campus of Stockton University. Funding for Latino Motion is provided by Atlanticare, healthcare you can believe in. Atlantic City Electric, energy for a changing world. And South Jersey Gas. Welcome to Latino Motion, a weekly interview show highlighting issues impacting New Jersey's Latino community while advancing understanding of Latino cultural heritage and contributions to our society. And here is your host, Bert Lopez.
Buenos dias and welcome to Latino Motion. Emotional intelligence, also called EI, and referred to as the new SMART, is moving from and center to corporate boardrooms, where it's becoming the latest leadership buzzword. Joining me to discuss what this fuss is all about is Inez Barberio. Inez, welcome to Latino Motion.
Thank you, Bert. Thank you so much for having me.
So EI, or emotional intelligence, what is it?
Emotional intelligence is the heightened self-awareness of yourself and as well as other people's. And when you have this awareness of yourself and your emotions, you learn how to regulate, how you feel, and also understand why you act and say, what you do.
Is this any different than mindfulness?
Mindfulness is part of emotional intelligence. So there's many components of emotional intelligence. And, when you learn all of them, and you bring it all together, it really takes you to like a more harmonious lifestyle.
So I mentioned in the offset how it's becoming part of some of the boardrooms. So
yes.
that means that people are seeing the value in terms of using mindfulness for leadership skills.
Oh, without question.
Tell me what are some of the benefits in terms of leadership?
Well, without question. I mean, the term emotional intelligence wasn't actually made public until 1995, where they discovered it. And now, Forbes magazine, Harvard Business Review have listed it as that by 2020, it's going to be one of the most sought after skill sets that employers are looking for. And what emotional intelligence does for the workplace, it teaches people how to work collaboratively, how to keep drama out of the workplace, lessen turnover, and just, have a better, teach people to be leaders instead of just managers, like how to lead more efficiently and have people have a greater community.
It's interesting you said keep the drama out, but then again, you're getting more in touch with your own emotions and those of others. So wouldn't that increase more drama?
No, not at all. So what happens is, historically, employers don't want you to talk about your personal life, in the workplace. But if we were more open to it, and I'm not talking about your date from the last night or anything, but let's just say that I go into work, right, and I'm having a difficult time, like my child may be ill, and I may be a little off that day, or maybe a little bit more just emotional or not as focused as I normally would be. If my employer would understand that or see that ahead of time, they'd be more understanding. Like instead of saying, oh, Inez, God, she's really slacking today, they would have an understanding that, oh, you know what? She's having a little difficulty with her child. Her child's ill. That's why she's not the way she is. And when they understand, and me as an employee, I feel like more compassion. I feel like, wow, they care. It's more of a caring environment.
And I would think this is important in all kind of jobs. And I could see some benefit of this, particularly when you maybe work in a dangerous job in construction or other, where you could have a risk. And the state of mind is very important when you approach that kind of work.
Without a doubt. Your mindset is huge. And we are programmed and our brains are wired to have a negative mindset, unfortunately. And when you watch, the news and society, we're constantly being bombarded with negative stories, negative situations. And when you see enough of it, you start believing, well, that's the norm. That's just the way it is. So what I try and do is teach people emotional intelligence where we're rewiring our brains to think positive mindsets, right? Instead of going to the negative, think of it as, well, what benefit is in this? And how can I learn from this?
Now, you mentioned the fact that it's that emotional intelligence is not just understanding your own feeling, but those of others. So we mentioned on the workplace how that comes to play. But
Yes.
what really is the benefit of knowing how you're feeling?
Well, it's really important if we understand and take the time to understand the feelings of others people, because then you won't be so defensive, right?
Okay.
So if somebody's upset with you or snaps at you,
Right.
you may feel like your ego's telling you to protect you and they want to, it's about you. Well, when you start to understand other people, you realize, well, it's not about me. It's something within them. And then you don't take it so personally.
Oh, that sounds like good advice, obviously, and it could certainly
Yeah.
fend off some tension in the workplace.
Oh, without a doubt. And, going back to mindset, mindfulness, all mindfulness is like knowing that you have a choice, right? We have a choice on how we want to respond, what we see, what we read, what we eat, what we listen to. So being mindful of what we allow in our lives can truly have a positive impact.
Are there some practical tips that could help us to be more emotionally aware and more emotionally intelligent?
Yeah, well, there's things that I do personally and I teach my students. I meditate every morning, okay? I do, and I'm thinking, not a half hour, just like 10-minute meditation, just to clear my mind of things. Gratefulness. I wake up every morning. Now, I wrap spirituality in emotional intelligence as well. I start my day off with just, a simple prayer, being grateful, listing 3 things that I'm grateful for. Every single day, I start off that way. Every single evening, I end with positive, happy thoughts. And then, of course, it's just feeding your mind with positive things, reading good books, helping other people, being kind, smiling. All these little things will help you get into an emotional mindset.
Let's talk about some of the businesses and some of the corporations that employ or might be interested in emotional intelligence.
Right. So it's really great because now I'm getting people are contacting me with emotional intelligence, wanting me to train their employees on what it is, what they can do to help their employees, because by teaching these different aspects of emotional intelligence, it helps the employees work collaboratively, be more innovative, have a happier environment within, the workplace.
Is this just corporate America? You're talking about small businesses? Or
Listen, I teach people from individuals one-on-one to small businesses to big businesses. And it's funny because I was just on vacation and I got a new client while I was in Italy. We were talking. I found out they work in a business in New York, and they were totally, intrigued by it, and just like that.
Well, it certainly sounds like it has a lot of value. We want to continue this discussion.
Great.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with more Latino Motion.
Latino Motion with Bert Lopez is presented by Latino Motion Public Affairs Media, a New Jersey nonprofit corporation. Join us online at www.latinomotion.tv. Find us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. We encourage your comments and contributions for show topics.
Welcome back to Latino Motion. We'll continue our discussion with Inez Barberio on the topic of emotional intelligence, what it means, and why you should care. Inez, we were just talking about what it is.
Yes.
In terms of emotional intelligence. It's not just about knowing your feelings and those of others, and we discussed the benefits. And let's just talk a little further in terms of what the science behind EI or emotional intelligence. What's the science behind it?
Well, the science is that, your brain works a certain way, right? And it's learning and there's been so many studies, proving that yes, when you start thinking positively, when you put yourself in a positive environment, it does rewire your brain on how it works. And that is really important for people to understand, because some people are like, oh, EI, that's just a soft skill set. There's nothing to prove it. But there's plenty of studies that say, no, there truly is. And there's, just like we don't see and hear everything, but it exists, right? So there's that positive energy, positive flow. And so when we create that, more will come towards us.
Now, when we talk about EI, how will you compare that to, say, IQ, someone's IQ?
Okay, so with IQ, you're born with it, and it's a set, and when you get tested for, it's a set number. IQ, you cannot change, right? That your IQ is your IQ. With EI, it's completely different. With emotional intelligence, you can continuously grow from it. And we're born with some emotional intelligence as children and babies, but as you grow, you become exposed to the word no as a toddler. You become exposed to different peer pressure from other people. So, you start getting all these negative vibes into your life. And then with emotional intelligence, you can learn through the different, meditation, gratitude, all that stuff, to change to more of a positive mindset. And it's a continuous journey. You're never going to master it. Like, even when you do think you're going to master it, the universe will throw something at you, and I'll say, well, how am I going to deal with that?
So you could say pretty much that IQ is more in terms of the knowledge, whereas the emotional intelligence is how you react to some of that knowledge and new input.
Because emotional intelligence is feelings. It's not just a thought. It's how you actually feel and how others feel and how you manage those feelings to basically get what you want. And you're not manipulating. You have to be careful, with people, because there are people that will use it to be manipulative towards it, right? But that is obviously not my goal.
Let's talk about your goal and some of the things, the work you're doing. First of all, to get to the level of what you're running your own business in terms of emotional intelligence, you had to be certified and qualified. So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I've always had a passion for just, learning about myself and self-help, because, me, like many other people, didn't have the most perfect little upbringing. Right. And I was faced with challenges that I, had to learn how to navigate through. And so I have my master's is in education with a focus on psychology. And when you're learning about psychology, you're thinking, oh my goodness, why is this not a mandatory subject for everybody? Because it really helps you understand why we are and how to act. And instead of using positive reinforcement, which is so amazing to really get what you want. And also I was certified in emotional intelligence through my mentor, Jen Groover, who runs a program. And she's been doing this for over 15 years. And she's been a really, really, helpful, supportive, female entrepreneur.
So now you're an entrepreneur and you have your own business. So basically you're serving as a coach to help others reach their potential in terms of emotional intelligence.
Absolutely. Like, my goal is to help people reach their highest potential. And it's a very rewarding and fulfilling, feeling for me. I've had many, many jobs in different careers. And, I worked and just always felt that sense of emptiness. There was no sense, there was no meaning to it. And when I really got involved in this, I was like, you know what, this is it. This is my passion.
Let's talk a little bit about belief systems, because obviously we all have or develop belief systems. And how does that come to play with emotional intelligence?
Well, what's important to understand is many of our belief systems were placed there. We were taught, by growing up through other people, our teachers, our friends, our family, our religious leaders, whatever they may be. And while many belief systems are positive, there's also negative belief systems too. And as you become emotionally intelligent, it's important to really look into yourself, look back at those belief systems, understand where they came from, right? And then you take and work to take out what doesn't work for you, because there are ones that will be holding you back from success, will hold you in fear, and it's learning how to let go of those and create new ones to help you move forward.
So sounds like you kind of have to do an inventory.
Yes, absolutely. And for emotional intelligence to work, you have to want it to work. I'll be honest, not everybody is going to be on board for it. And but if you do, and if you truly are passionate about it, it will work for you.
So it sounds like it's not for everybody, and you have to be open to it.
Absolutely. Because, and unfortunately, the ones that aren't open to, they have a negative belief system, and they're caught in this negative cycle.
We're going to want to continue some more of this discussion, particularly let's talk the impact of emotional intelligence on youth.
Okay. Yes.
We'll be right back with more Latino Motion.
Latino Motion with Bert Lopez is presented by Latino Motion Public Affairs Media, a New Jersey nonprofit corporation. Join us online at www.latinomotion.tv. Find us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. We encourage your comments and contributions for show topics.
Welcome back to Latino Motion. We continue our discussion with Inez Barberio on the topic of emotional intelligence. And as we were talking about the fact that emotional intelligence is used in the corporate boardroom, but it has some very practical applications at home with our children, and it perhaps a lot of good use for parents as well as children. So tell me a little bit about the importance of that for children.
Without question. My number one question is, why is emotional intelligence not being taught in every single school system? I mean, we are so hung up on math and science, which absolutely is important. However, what good is all the academics if children are not able to communicate with each other, with their feelings? And, there's so many kids that are, being bullied. There's the suicide rate that has jumped, I think, 400%, between 8 and 14-year-olds. That's really scary. And, kids really need to understand, if something's upsetting them, how do I talk this out with somebody? How do I communicate it? How do I not lash out and use anger?
Yeah, and I guess you hit the nail on the head in terms of the kids usually express their emotions in a bad way, so to speak.
Yes.
Maybe lashing out. But the communication part is very key. How do we teach that to kids?
Well, for instance, I have an 11-year-old son, and I'm very adamant on helping him, teaching him now. Right, I have to practice what I preach. Right. So, helping him understand what's upsetting him. So, one example is, we were out. It was a Friday night. I was taking him to his karate practice. He was very upset. He's like, "Mommy, I'm very triggered." I'm like, "You're very triggered. Why are you triggered?" Which is a term that we use for, EI. And he says, "Well, because it's Friday and I really don't want to go to karate. I feel like Friday is my, time to relax and have fun with my friends." Okay. So my response is, okay, so you have to listen to what your child is saying too. Don't come back and say, "Well, no, you have to go. That's just the way it is." Instead, well, Mateo, what's a better solution? What's a solution that we can do so you don't feel triggered? Well, could we go on a Tuesday or Wednesday instead? Absolutely. So just like that, you dissolved, something that could have escalated into an argument or a fight, and just helping kids work it out with you. And so, when he was upset, he was able to tell me what upset him.
Now, when you're dealing with children, it's not easy to convey the message, if you will,
right,
in terms of getting to express the feelings or understand the feelings of the other child. So how do we accomplish that?
Very simple. The simplest term is teaching children how to be kind, how to be kind to each other, how to have compassion, how to have empathy for each other, right? Because we're so quick to be judging. Even young children are already judging. And when you judge somebody, you're saying, "I'm right, and you're wrong." So it's finding ways to find that and teaching them how to be themselves too, because, so many kids, with social media and whatnot, we're all trying to be alike, right? All the kids are trying to keep up with everybody else and follow and belong to a clique. It's teaching children, it's okay to be unique, because being unique is your power.
One of the things that many kids face is bullying.
Yes.
It's a big epidemic throughout the country. Do you think EI is a benefit in that regard?
100%. I think if children were to learn emotional intelligence, it would definitely, help put a stop to bullying. Because a lot of times when the bullying is occurring, it has nothing to do with the person that they're bullying or being bullied. It has to do with that own person's, pain that they're feeling inside, and they're taking it out on someone else. So if that child is able to talk and express their emotions and how they feel to somebody that they trust, then they won't be lashing out on another child.
Well, let's talk about the parents,
Yes.
obviously, because parents often when they are going through some stuff, express it freely and may not be thinking about the impact it could have on the child. And obviously, just having that EI intelligence
Yes.
it could help even real benefit to how you rear your children.
Without a doubt. I mean, with parents, we need to be really careful. Anything that, it's not what we say, it's what we do, right? Because that's what kids are modeling. They're modeling our behaviors. So if we're saying, don't yell or don't tease your sister, but they're seeing mom and dad yelling and fighting over, that's what they're going to do. So parents need to learn how to, to communicate with each other on an emotional intelligence aspect as well.
So do you see a day when EI is going to be taught in school?
I do. I really do. I'm an optimist. I am part of a huge EI community, and we're growing. We're growing. And there's so many people. Like, I always like to feel, and I inherently believe that there's more good in the world than there is bad. And I think, together, if we work together, this will happen.
Well, that's very useful information. We'll put up your contact information,
Great.
obviously, so someone wants to get further information on the subject, they certainly can.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing, and
Thank you so much.
for joining us at home once again here on Latino Motion.
Choose quality, value, distinction. Choose Stockton.
Funding for Latino Motion is provided by Atlanticare, healthcare you can believe in. Atlantic City Electric, energy for a changing world. And South Jersey Gas.